stepping inside the principal's office, building community with the right synergy. Stepping.
A lot of times this topic comes up with leaders, it's either met with
It's a safe place to be. Well, leaders can be free. Come learn new lessons.
gap is closing
Feel
and
free
kids
to
are
ask the question.
increasingly involved into the learning.
The principal's office. Inside the principal's office. Principal's
I mean, are you guys principals or middle school students?
Inside the principal's office.
Hello and good morning. Welcome to the show. We are so excited that you have chosen to share this Saturday morning on a Labor Day weekend. We know how precious these extended weekends are, but you are here with us this morning. So thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Charles Williams, and I am one half of the dynamic duo that makes up Inside the Principal's Office, courtesy of School Rubric. In case this is your first time, let me introduce myself really quick. As I mentioned, my name is Charles. I am an assistant principal in Chicago, been doing education for about 17 years. So in addition to that, I also host the Counter Narrative podcast. And we are in this group here, this space here, we are authors. In fact, our book is 1 year old. So we're excited. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later.
A great 1 year celebration, guys.
This is a great way to celebrate. So Mac, how are you this morning?
I am doing awesome. I'm glad to be here with you all this morning. Hey, everyone. I am Michael McWilliams. Everyone calls me Mac. I am excited about being here. I was a career principal, 20 years in the elementary principal seat, and now I am consulting for Solution Tree, a K-12 educational company, and I get to travel the nation coaching principals and coaching teams, and it's been a great ride so far. So I am glad to be here today, and it's kind of like the Three Musketeers today. We've written a book, Inside the Principal's Office, and our co-author is here spending this Labor Day weekend with us, and we've all had changes this year.
That's right.
Into new roles this year. I think that's absolutely amazing. Dr. T, how's it going, man? Tell the people these days.
It's going great, man. I love the new intro you guys have. All the songs and dance. I need to start dancing with you guys. But,
You do.
Yeah. I got the shoes. You know I have the shoes.
Yeah, you do have the shoes. I think we should do TikToks.
That's right. Hey, I tried a couple and I suck. I just want to tell you. But I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep doing it. My teenage daughter got me into that. But anyway, my name is Dr. Rob Thornell. Call me Rob. And Mac is right. Doing something new this year after quite a long time. Being a principal, supervising and working with principals, leading principals, I have stepped into a role with NWA as a school improvement coach. And so I'm going around the nation actually coaching principals and stuff, not working with the map data as much, but coaching principals and trying to talk about how do we build effective schools. And so I'm enjoying that work this year, and it's a lot of fun. So we're all doing something a little different. It's great. So happy to be here. And I came up on my phone yesterday, guys. It was 1 year since that book came out.
1 year.
So we spent a little time at number one. We need to get back there.
There we go. So, and thank you to everybody who was here with us this morning. You could help us get back there. All you got to do is hop on over to Amazon and pick up a copy to say, hey, we're going to wish you all a happy book birthday. We were hoping to have Shelly Burgess here with us, but unfortunately she was unable to make it. So if you came here to see her, please don't jump off. I mean, you could still hang out with us.
She's on a pirate ship somewhere, I bet.
Yeah, maybe with Jimmy Butler. No, I'm joking. But anyway, we are going to attempt to do our best. We struggle with this sometimes, but we're going to attempt to do our best of staying focused on the show, because that is also our topic. We've been talking about setting up things throughout the year. How do we figure out where we want to go? How do we set those goals? But now it's how do we stay focused as we go throughout the year? Because as we know, once the school year starts, it's very easy to get bogged down by school. So how do we stay focused? So always, if you're in this space, please make sure that you are letting us know you're here. Stop on by, say hello, drop your thoughts, drop your questions. And as Mac will make sure that he is monitoring our social media feed. So make sure you share this out, connect this with a colleague or two so we can grow this space, because that's what it is all about. Mac, are you ready for question number 1?
I am ready.
All right, let's do this. Question number 1.
Inside the principal's office, discussion question 1. The school year can be a marathon, so how do you stay motivated to continue working and stay focused, especially when events and processes don't coincide with the timeline you originally set forth?
Wait, does that ever happen? Like our timelines get diverted?
I really believe
I'm in a public school, well, in any school setting, I believe all the time.
Yeah, Mac, I'm just gonna say you got to start this question.
I have to start this question.
I'm just teasing you. You were saying before show about your timeline. You need a timeline to get things done.
I do. Timelines are good, and this is the thing. I build a timeline, and that's how I would answer the question, is within my timeline, because I don't do well. I have to have a timeline. I build in. I think that we have to be agile. Agility is very important in education, and I think that we have to be very intentional. So because we are already aware, when things go awry and timelines go off, because we are aware that's going to happen, I think it's very important that we plan for that. So when we build the timeline, we have to build in checkpoints, and we know that at this checkpoint, if this is happening, then we go. It's like those books you used to read where it says, do you want such and so to happen? Go to page 69. If you want this to happen, go to page 72. We have to build that into our timelines and into our plans, that on September 19th, we're going to check to see how things are going. And if things are going well, we're going here. If things are not going well, we're going there.
Yep.
Mac, I love that idea. Like Google Calendar is one of my best friends. It's that same exact thing. And I was just learning about something. The principal where I'm at right now uses something called Boomerang. So he will click on that in Gmail, so that message will come back. So that way it's like, hey, as a reminder. And I was like, that is awesome, because how many times do things get bogged down and we just keep on moving, right? And so it kind of brings it back up to the front and putting it absolutely. I don't know who created it, but I was like, that is awesome.
They did good that day.
I was going to say hire the best secretary you can afford. But, no, when this question reminds me of my favorite Mike Tyson quote. You know what that one is, right? Everybody's got a game plan until they get hit in the mouth. And school happens, right, guys? School happens. And absolutely. So when our timelines get changed, I think one thing good leaders do is they're able to course correct, and it's okay. Hey, we may not make this timeline. We're still going to do the project, but here's what we got to do to adjust, because some things have come in. And I think it's okay to say that. I think sometimes as leaders, we forget it's okay to admit that. And so that would be my advice, is it's okay to course correct sometimes.
Yeah. And it's just like kids in the classroom. If there's a part of the year where they should be reading at this level, but they're not there yet, and they should be there to make that year's growth that you want during the school year, what do? You identify what interventions are we going to do to ensure that while we're not at that point now, at the end of the year and at the end, we're still going to get the same results. So we have to do the same thing. We have to say we're not where we should be right now. So now we're going to have to not only go with the plan, but we're going to have to create a plan of intervention. What are we going to do? Let's identify the root cause. What is happening to prevent, what is stunning our growth, and what do we need to do to address that causal factor so we can move forward?
I was actually reading something this week. It's in the Atomic Habits book by James Clear, but he was talking about this idea between motion and action. And it really resonated with me. He said a lot of times we're taking motion, like we're thinking about those walkthroughs, we're getting them on the calendar, we're doing these things, but until we've actually done them and taken action on them, we're not really moving forward. Right. And so we can't get stuck in that idea of just our wheels spinning with all this planning, all these good intentions, unless we're taking some action. So that's another part too, is when you get bogged down, just go do something. Small wins, right? Small wins, do something. Small wins.
The other part of this question that I think is important is that motivation point, right? Because I think a lot of times the same thing, it's very easy to feel overwhelmed, especially when you do step back. And if you are off track, if those things haven't been accomplished, it's very easy to feel like, well, what's the point? I'm going to stop. I'm going to give up, whatever it may be. And so I think back to this past week. So our first week was last week. First week was phenomenal. Kids are back in school. It's great. But Friday at dismissal, a couple blocks away from our school, there's a fight in the neighborhood, a community. My students, right, like most students, are standing around watching it, and somebody does the unthinkable. They pull out a weapon and they start shooting. And unfortunately, 2 of our students were hit in that crossfire.
Wow.
And so you think about it, right? We had an amazing week. We had everything planned up. Things were rolling. Things are rocking. Friday hits. Right. And so now it's how do we make sure that we're staying focused, but also how are we staying motivated? And so this week, my principal, the people in the building were phenomenal at saying, okay, let's bring everybody back in. Let's make sure that we're staying motivated to continue moving. Right. Because we were so excited that we were off to a great year. And this past Friday, one of our teachers set up a GoFundMe page. We got some great donations, and then we just celebrated Friday. We came together as a community. We celebrated. I wasn't there because obviously I'm here in New York, but we celebrated, and we just said, "Hey, look, we had a hiccup, right? We got off track, but we came back on, and let's celebrate that success." So I think a lot of times that motivation piece, we're really quick to beat ourselves up over being off track, not hitting the mark, being off track, right? But let's celebrate getting back on and being focused and moving forward again.
Yeah.
Right. I think one of the things that we really need to practice daily is we have to learn how to wrap all of our activities in mission, because that is what ultimately motivates us. Is we all want to be a part of everybody wants to be a part of a winning team. And everybody that's in education really got into it for the kids. And so I think that we have to make sure that we wrap our activities, not in our intention and not in our feelings, but we wrap everything in our mission. And when we look at everything through the lens of mission, while we may not be as far as we would have liked to be, have we moved closer to the goal? And are we fulfilling our mission and our purpose? That's what that motivates me. I may not be where I want to, but when I look through the lens of what our mission statement is, why we exist, we are still moving in the right direction because all of our movement is in our purpose, the thing that brings us to that building every single day.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good. I love the fact, Max, and I tell you this all the time, that you've ingrained that in me: mission, vision, values, goals, right? And it always comes back to that. So just thank you for reiterating that.
Yeah.
We had a listener. A comment popped up from William Conrad, I think it was, and he was talking about, and I think it's great, is get every classroom to celebrate. How do we have fun in our classrooms, and how do we mark that down there where the kids are? The leaders can do certain parts, but I appreciate that, because I do think that, how do we advocate for our teachers, allow our teachers, encourage our teachers, but make sure that they're celebrating every week with their kids as well, I think is very important.
Well, aren't celebrations a section of our book, right?
Yeah.
We do talk about that.
We might have a resource for some people.
Have fun. Got to have fun, right?
Right.
Absolutely. And so I know, we typically talk a little bit about the book as we transition from question 1 into question 2. And this is just one of those things, right? I mean, the idea that, I know we talked kind of about like, where do we move? I love the fact that Rob talked about, hey, stepping out, being in action, making sure that you're actually doing. But, it's also about looking back and reflecting and figuring out, where am I at? And the book is really set up exactly for that. So if you haven't seen it yet, if you have, thank you so much. But if you haven't, it really is that, giving you an opportunity to read, to reflect, and not just to think about, but to actually capture your ideas, your thoughts, and figuring out where you're at. So that way you can figure out those celebrations, figure out your mission and your purpose, and continue moving forward.
Yeah. And, honestly, that would be a tip. book or not, that would be a tip that I give principals all the time is, if you haven't set aside, 30 minutes or an hour each week to just reflect on a Friday morning in your office or something like that, you need to, journal, do whatever. That keeps you on track as well on those timelines and stuff. But, be intentional about your reflection, I think, is very important. Being intentional about it. So.
All right, Mac, you ready for question number 2?
I am ready for question number 2. Let's go.
Uh-oh.
Inside the principal's office, discussion question 2. As a school administrator, many unexpected squirrel moments, or moments where you've been distracted and drifted off the task at hand, can come up during the course of the school year. How can you keep both yourself and your team on track, or determine if you need to course correct?
That's
a good
great question.
I mean, I was going to.
That is great.
So, what are the, I was going to say,
for
what
a moment there, I was like, what?
You see, I was trying to play into it, right? The squirrel. One of the things that I love are just check-ins. I think a lot of times, and I'll be honest, during the pandemic, it was kind of nice when we shifted into these like remote. It's like, oh, we could do a Zoom, but very, very quickly we became Zoom fatigued, right? We became Zoombies. Like we just sat in meeting after meeting after meeting. Like, you like that one, Mac? Meeting after meeting. And so I said, you know what, to my teams, I said, you know what, let's just do some check-ins, right? Not everything has to be a formal meeting with an agenda with all of these bullet points. Let's just do check-ins. Where are we at? What are we working on? Where are we going? Right? And just quick, each week, just do a quick check-in. I mean, we schedule those formal meetings so we can sit down and make sure everything's working properly. But those quick check-ins are critical, at least for me, to say, hey, are we moving in the right direction? What do you need help in? What do you need help? This is what I need help on, whatever it may be. But it really makes sure that we are staying on track, because as we've been talking all this time, it's very easily to go off on these other tangents and these other routes. So for me, those regular checkpoints with my various groups helps us all to stay on task.
Sure.
I think that data, I'm kind of a data junkie. And I think that you keep people on track by data. It is squirrel moments. Do we know, is this a squirrel moment, or is this where we need to pivot and we need to do something different? If there is no data attached to your timelines, it's very easy to react based on your emotions. That our emotions and our feelings say that, oh, let's just throw that out and let's just sometimes we're course correcting when we really should stay the course. But I think that you have to frame I know that you have to frame things through the lens of data, and data tells a story, and data will always tell you what to do. And if you include data in your day-to-day, your weekly check-ins, your processes, the data will tell you, what it is that the organization needs to be doing.
Sure. I think a lot of it goes with your own leadership style. I mean, I think when you step back and look at your team, who are your squirrel hunters? Who are the ones who are going to go find those squirrels? And
you have those too?
Yeah, there's some out there. But I think that it says a lot to your stakeholders when you're calm when squirrels come up, or whether you jump up and run and change course just because there's one squeaky wheel. And so I think it kind of goes back a little bit to your mission in talk, Matt. It's just, what do we think is important here? If I'm an instructional leader and it's important for me to be in classrooms a certain amount of day, or I'm doing something, I'm not going to not do that because there is one little issue of spilt water in the floor or something. That doesn't mean I don't have to take care of it. Doesn't mean I'm not a servant leader, but I am going to show what's important, and I'm not going to totally drop everything because of one little thing coming up. And I think I do think that's a balance, and I think it's a leadership style. But I think it's okay to say, hey, we're going to keep going. And yes, ma'am, I know you're really upset, and if you'll just give me a few minutes, I got to finish what I'm doing here with this teacher. With the student. And says it's okay to do that sometimes.
Yeah, and that usually works out in your benefit.
Yeah.
Because if they're angry, if you get an angry parent that comes in, if they sit there sometimes, or if you send someone to visit with them prior to you, let them get that out before they get to you. And you go to the classroom and you do the 15-minute walkthrough, give them time to kind of sit and calm a little bit.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about reflective questions earlier, and I think one of the things that I pose to principals a lot is just this question, you know, what would your staff say is important to you? Mm-hmm. And if you can answer that question the same way your staff will answer it, you won't chase near as many squirrels.
Right.
You'll all be on the same page on what's important at the school. So.
Right.
You know, I was just, on the podcast the other day, I was meeting with the authors of the 7 Mind Shifts. And one of the things they talked about was this idea of like urgency and responsibility. And I thought back to a time, you know, as leaders, a lot of times we have our walkie. Right. And like you said, you know, we're sitting in a room, we're doing an observation, we're doing a meeting, whatever it may be. And that walkie goes off. And, you know, your immediate reaction is like, what's going on? I got to go take. And so they asked those 2 questions. First of all, urgency, right? Like, is this something that needs to be handled right now?
Right.
Or can that be something you add it to your to-do list? I'm going to take care of that later. And then the second part, and this was one I know I struggled with a lot, was responsibility. Do you need to be the one to address that? Yeah. Or can somebody else take care of that? So that way you
send a squirrel chaser.
Send a squirrel chaser, right? Like, so you can stay focused.
That's right.
And make sure that you know you're moving forward towards your goal. And it was like, yeah, this is really important. I think a lot of times that's what we do is we get so bogged down on, you know, the mini issues that we're not looking at what are the things that are feeding into those, right? If we address that issue, the root issue, right, it's not going to keep popping up and we can move on with our day.
If you're supposed to be in PLC with a 4th grade team and you cancel because something came up, what did that just tell them about how important they are?
Yeah.
Something else is more important than they are, and the needs that they were supposed to be addressing.
Yeah, their time wasn't as important.
That Charles hit on is this idea of delegating, and that you know, the responsibility of our learning community can't rest on the shoulders of just 1 or 2 people or the administrative teams, but empowering others to address things as they come up. Sometimes as leaders, because we have this heavy responsibility in our student profile, you know, we're responsible for everybody and everything, but we really rob others of building their leadership capacity when we alone are going to fix everything. So that's great that, you know, and maybe that's something that you consider doing when I am doing these things related to our goal. If a need arises, delegate someone. One of the things I did at one point was I had a lead teacher. So if I was out of the building or if I was in a building, doing something, and maybe me and my AP were behind closed doors or doing something, there was a teacher on each wing. You can't get to me, get to the lead teacher on your wing and let them handle that. So.
But I want to stress, just connected to that, Max, something that Rob mentioned earlier. It's really nice to be able to say you have these things, but don't just talk about those structures. Don't just kind of create a structure, and make sure that you're enabling those individuals, right? Because otherwise you're like, no, I've got people to do it. But if they don't feel empowered, if they're not enabled, if they don't have the capacity, and all they're going to do is really a liaison to say, okay, let me check in with the like, that doesn't work. That doesn't help.
Don't ask me because I could just do it myself.
That's right.
Yeah, but I think the most powerful things a principal can do is build a guiding coalition and to empower others to do the work and to see themselves as leaders. You know,
I've seen a lot of principals work themselves to death on stuff that didn't matter. You know, doesn't mean they're not working hard. Doesn't mean they're not good people, but
you're exhausted.
And you're exhausted.
You work 12 hours in a day.
But you're in motion, but you're not making action. You're not taking action.
Right.
So,
that's good.
It's like that hamster wheel, right? You're constantly moving, but you're not really going anywhere.
You're not really doing anything. So hey, but John, one of our biggest fans, John's making a point about those walkies being a distractor. So John, I got a hack for you. I want to use your walkie-talkie for advantage. All right, when you're going into a meeting with a mad parent, make sure your secretary walkies you. But no, here's the deal. Not to get out of the meeting. No, not to get out of the meeting. What you say is, No, ma'am, I'm sorry. I got something really important I'm taking care of. Now that parent thinks that you're so important. That's the hack right there, huh?
Oh,
Not to,
look at that.
You're not getting out of the meeting. You're going to show that parent you're important because you ignored the walkie-talkie while you were talking to her. Boom. How about that idea that sticks?
Yeah,
Immediately, I was.
ideal just stuck. Excellent. I
That's
love
right.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, speaking of ideas that stick, it's our favorite part of the day, ideas that stick.
So, we're talking about this idea about staying focused. And so we want to be able to share with you. I mean, a lot of times, we talk and things may sound a little theoretical, but we want to be able to close this one out with sharing with you examples that we have had of how we were able to stay focused despite the distractions. And so we're just going to go through Mac, Rob, and myself. And so, and I know I've shared this story before, but it's one of those things I just keep coming back to was us getting to a level 2+ school. When I first joined the school that I was at previous to where I am currently, the school set at a level 2. And we were scheduled to be shut down. That was my welcome, right? Welcome to the school. You're on the closing list. And it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And so our goal was that 2+, but along the way, there were a lot of distractions, a lot of detractors, because what happened was, I remember the very first year when we didn't get to the 2+, immediately there's news articles out that, oh, well, they failed. They're going to be shut down. Students are leaving. Teachers are leaving. The media's coming in. And it's very easy to chase all those squirrels. Let's go get our kids back. Let's go get our teachers back. Let me talk to the media. Let me clarify. Let us clear all this stuff up. But it was like, as we've talked about, we have a mission. We have a vision. We have a purpose. Let's stay focused. We celebrate it. I talk about that, in part of our inside the principal's office presentation that we do when we're at conferences. We talk about this, right? We celebrate it, and people are like, why are we celebrating? We're not at that 2+ point yet. Not yet, but we've made that progress. And so, we had to stay hyper focused. And because we did, we hit that 2+ mark. But if we would have spent all that time and energy and effort chasing after all those squirrels, trying to figure, let's get our kids back in, let's get our teachers back in, let's focus and try to detract and tell a different story out there to the media. Let's stay focused, right? If we would have spent all that time and energy elsewhere, we wouldn't have been able to stay focused and get us to that 2+. And all of those things would have happened naturally, right? We would have ended up being shut down. And so that is the story I keep coming back to. It was so challenging because I'll be honest, when I first started, I was chasing those squirrels. And I said, you know what, forget about it. And people thought I was crazy. They're like, what do you mean? Like, nope, let's stay razor focused and we're going to get there, right? Keep your eye on the ball. And we were able to do so. So I'm gonna turn it over. I think Mac is up next. Mac, what is yours?
I guess my example would be at the school I just stepped away from would be creating a culture of collaboration. I think a lot of times teachers, they work in isolation. And that was a hard shift because it wasn't a technical change. It wasn't changing, we're going to use this form instead of this one, or the meeting is going to be at 9 instead of 10. But it required people's mindsets to change. And it's always difficult when you're doing those cultural changes instead of those. We're really accustomed to those technical changes. Mm-hmm. And so it was just, we really had to stay the course. And what we had to do was over communicate the why, over communicate the importance, over communicate how it impacted student learning. And we really had to really over communicate why we were creating all of these systems and engineering all these spaces where teachers were put in a room and asked to collaborate. Because you had the naysayers and you had the people that we've always done it this way and this is the way that it should be done. So you have those people in the background in every area saying why it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. So you have to be very, you have to understand as a leader and as a leadership team, those that were the early adopters, we have to over communicate, understanding that we set the weather in the building. And so clarity will always come before competence. So we had to make sure that we had a united effort and that we, talked about the importance in the direction that we were going to help change the culture, the mindsets, the way people thought. So that was the hardest goal. And then, when you get adults that kind of kick, you're taking, dragging, screaming and kicking. There were lots of distractions, lots of behaviors. But again, you have to just understand that this is what's best for kids. Is more closely aligned to what our mission and our vision is. And so that's the direction we have to go.
I love that, Mac, because that's that difference between compliance and commitment, right? Like if we just start doing something different, I'll do it, but I'm not buying into it.
Yeah.
I love that. Rob, what about you?
Oh man, we see it right there in blue. Get finished, not famous. So I wrote that. That one came to my mind, and I'm talking to all my friends out there that are working on a long-term project. Maybe you're in your master's program. Maybe you're working on a dissertation. Maybe you're working on a book. Mm-hmm. But I had a professor when I was working on my dissertation, and I kept, just spinning my wheels. And he said, Rob, you got to take action. You got to get finished, not famous. Quit trying to save the world. Do the work. Roll up your sleeves and do the work. And I think that is that's an important piece. I think sometimes we get so bogged down in wanting everything to be perfect, and we start spinning our wheels, and we do this planning. And so my advice and my thing is there is just, get finished, not famous. Just roll up your sleeves and get after it and look for small wins. And so that's kind of how I got through mine. And I use that phrase a lot, and I encourage people. But I'm looking at this sticker on my desk here. My favorite TV show of all time is Ted Lasso. And I don't know if you guys have watched it at all, but he has a sticker, or he has a saying that says, you can make excuses or you can make adjustments. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about course correction today, the things we're doing, man, if the school happens, we're going to, it's going to be a hard year, and there's going to be things that you didn't anticipate that comes up, and we can make excuses about that. And we can talk about our kids or our teachers or our parents, or we can make adjustments and we can move on. So, God bless Ted Lasso. He's my fan. He's my man. There you go.
Rob, I will say this. We were interviewing teachers, back last month, and there was a teacher candidate who was a soccer coach who spent some time in England. And I was like, you must love Ted Lasso. And he was like, absolutely. I said, so, teacher question, have you ever been fired for stealing cleats? And he was like, no, I've never got the boot for putting the boots in the boot. And I was like, meanwhile, my principal and other AP are like, what are you guys talking about?
That's kind of like what I'm doing right now.
Let me tell you, Mac, you don't have to be a soccer guy. That is a great show. So many bits of wisdom in there. Okay,
I just Googled.
Oh yeah,
Ted Lasso, American sports comedy drama television series. Okay,
you'll love it.
Google some of his quotes. You'll love it, buddy. You'll love it. But anyway,
I'll put it on my list.
All right. All that traveling you're doing.
Yes.
So,
we will. Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I hope everybody has a great fall. Has had a great start to the school year.
Yes.
It's been fun. It's been a good one. We're going to keep going. So.
Well, we want to say thank you. I know that, we want to make sure that you're able to get back into your weekend. Like we said, we want to recognize, that it is an extended weekend. And for many of us, it is a much needed break, especially as we're starting up school, or if you're about to start school. You definitely need this time to make sure that you're getting ready. And so we're going to be wrapping up here, but we just want to say thank you for all of you who've been popping in. John, as always, you are here. So thank you for being a dedicated, not just a guest, but you've been on the show. So thank you so much for your commitment to supporting the show. And as always, make sure that you're not just spending time with us in this space, but you could also join us in our Facebook group. We want to make sure, as we are trying to build a community of leaders from around the globe, just creating a safe space for us to learn, grow, and lead together. So make sure that you join us in that space. Mac, when's our next episode?
Our next episode is Saturday, September 17th. And we are going to discuss instructional leadership. And Dr. T, we're going to put you on the spot.
Oh.
Instructional leadership, we want you to, and I think it's instructional leadership, how can we bring out the potential in our teachers?
Yeah.
We want you to pay it forward. if you were going to watch that show, like I know that you are, what question do you want us to entertain and ask our guest?
I think I go back to something I said earlier today, but as an instructional leader in a building, what would your teacher say is important to you about what they do in their classroom? What are you modeling? What are you giving feedback on? What are your expectations in the classroom, and what would your teacher say your expectations are in the classroom? I think it's very important to be clear about that.
I like it. You know, we Mac. I know when we do our presentations and sessions, this is definitely, you know, Mac's section, and it is about, right, talking about this idea of instructional leadership. As we have leaders throughout the building, and that's one of the things we talk about even here in the show, right? You don't have to be a principal, you don't have to be an administrator in order to have a leadership role inside your school.
Right. Absolutely correct. Well, before we go, I just want to plug our book one more time. It not because we wrote it, but it is really, I wish I had something like this when I started the principalship 20 years ago. It is impossible to move your organization forward. It is impossible for you to get better without reflecting. And this is reflection is an important part of the improvement process. And this is a structure that will help you reflect on those things that are most critical and crucial to your leadership in education. So go to Amazon. If you have a book, you probably know someone that doesn't have it. Why not get stocking stuffers early? Give them a Labor Day. Give them a Labor Day present. Get this book for someone. Get it for yourself. Invest in yourself.
Thank you, Mac, and happy book birthday to both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy book
I'm gonna go have a
someone
cupcake.
come on and sing.
That's right. We should have had a cake. We should have had a cake.
We should have cupcakes.
Wallace, what happened?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's really going on, man?
Well, again, as
each or something.
Well, as always, we want to say thank you for being in this space with us. We cannot wait to connect with you on September 17th. But have an amazing holiday weekend.
Yes.
And until
Be
next time,
safe.
guys.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching and learning with us at School Rubric with educators from across the globe. For more access to articles, magazines, podcasts, live episodes, our international school directory, courses, and more, visit us at schoolrubric.org. Thank you.